the hope of the universe. I am the answer to all living things that cry out for peace.
This is a button. If you push it, then I will appear.
You know, some would say Goku is super misunderstood. Yes, pun intended, and no, I'm not sorry. A lot of people are convinced that he's a complete fucking moron because of clips like the Dragon Ball Super clip from earlier, and also because of Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
There! Yes! Oh my god.
No shade to Team 4-Star, I love those guys, but a lot of people haven't watched the original Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z since they were kids, and so the most recent thing in their minds is the Dragon Ball Z abridged version of Goku, who is genuinely that stupid. And so the memories get a little fuzzy, you know what I mean? Especially because the parody version is actually really good. But Goku's not misunderstood just because he's a dumbass, because he is a dumbass. People also call him a shitty dad, and I swear to God, if you say that, I will find you and I will shit in your pants. But that's not what this video is about. That's a whole other video, and I will make that video if you guys piss me off. But even before Dragon Ball Super and Team 4-Star, people were slandering my boy Goku, saying that he is selfish, that he's not even a good guy. And to understand why so many people get him wrong, we gotta rewind the clock a little bit. Let's do that right now. To be honest, I kind of get why this whole narrative that Goku's not a good person, he's kind of selfish, came about. Because back in the day with the English dub, especially the Funimation dub of Dragon Ball Z, which is what most of us originally grew up watching, they portray him as a pretty noble guy, kind of like Superman. Because let's be honest, it's a very easy comparison to make, even if you don't suffer from the chronic brain disease known as power scaling. I mean, yeah, the footage kind of speaks for itself, right? They're both from a destroyed alien race of people that has insane abilities, got orphaned on Earth, and then raised by a kindly older gentleman, and they more or less learn to be human from these positive role models. You get the idea. So back in the 90s, when anime was still pretty niche and new in the West, Funimation, Ocean, whoever else was looking at this and thinking, this guy has a lot in common with Superman, so let's lean into that and make him a little bit more digestible for Western audiences, so he doesn't come off like this weird Japanese cartoon thing. I don't know how much this applies to other countries' dubs of Dragon Ball, but the parallels are way too strong for it to be a coincidence for the Western English dub. Now, if you're a hardcore fan, you're probably trying really hard not to be like, actually Goku is nothing like Superman. But think about this in the context of the 90s. The original Dragon Ball was not successful before Dragon Ball Z came out. It only got a full dub after Dragon Ball Z already blew up and became super popular. So most people who got into Dragon Ball were coming into Dragon Ball Z blind. They didn't know anything about Goku. So if you're coming into the English dub for the first time and it's the 90s, nobody knows what the hell anime means. Yeah, we can complain about it now, but clearly whatever they did worked, because I cannot tell you how many times in the year 2024 even, I have seen these NPC build ass finance tech gym bros who are fucking normies in every way. They don't give a shit about anime, but for some reason, they still have a Goku profile picture on their Instagram or their old Facebook from 2012 that they haven't touched in the last decade. So yeah, sure, it's not a fully accurate portrayal of Goku. He's not a Superman clone, but I do understand why they leaned into it, you know? So honestly, when I was a kid, I never really thought about it because duh, I was a kid. But when I started using the internet, which was a mistake on my parents' part, let's be real. I was way too young for that shit, but I started reading all these opinions from these really angry fans who hated the Funimation version of Goku. Even at that time, imagine me, 10, 11 years old, Dragon Ball Z posters everywhere on my room. I even had a Dragon Ball Z tissue box that my dad brought back from Japan when he went there on a business trip. I sat there 11 years old, neurons not fully developed, frontal lobe doesn't exist, looking at this shit thinking, why are these guys so mad? It's just a cartoon. But what happened is in these weeb communities and these hardcore anime communities, there was this pushback because it is an inaccurate portrayal of Goku. And what they were saying was, hey, he's not like Superman. Actually, he's pretty selfish and he only cares about fighting. So Goku went from being misunderstood because the English dub changed him up a little bit to now being misunderstood in the other direction because people started overcompensating and being like, no, he's nothing like Superman. And you could come to that conclusion about Goku, especially if you're comparing him to Superman, but that's a really cynical reading of his character and not one that I think is in the spirit of who Goku actually is. The reality is he's not as stupid as Super made him look. He's not a Superman clone like the original English dub sometimes made him look like, but he's also not a selfish asshole like some people on the internet who are apparently Dragon Ball fans portrayed him as. He's just a chill guy. By the time this video comes out, that meme is probably already stale, but fuck it, it's true. Now there's probably at least 12 people out there who still love Dragon Ball GT watching this, and they're probably thinking, hey, you didn't talk about GT. What about GT Goku? I'm sorry to say, GT also misunderstood Goku. They did not fix him whatsoever. And listen, I love GT as much as the next guy, which is to say, not that much, but Super Saiyan 4? Kind of sick, right? See, the problem with GT is that it's stuck in this weird limbo where it doesn't know what the hell it wants to be. At times it's like, hey, let's make Goku a kid and go on another wacky, silly adventure, but this time it's in space. And at other times it's this grimy ass, overly edgy 90s ass show. I swear to God, it's so 90s. It's like they made this specifically for kids who listened to nu metal. I can confirm this because that was me. But like, bro, pick a lane, all right? Goku in GT feels like two completely different people. Kid Goku and adult Goku are not the same person in GT. It does not bridge the gap between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z Goku at all. It just makes them feel even more separate. Who the fuck is this guy? I don't know this guy. But okay, you saw the title of the video. What the hell does all this have to do with Dragon Ball Daima? Well, I would say the biggest standout in the series, for the first time in a long time in this franchise, is Goku himself. Dragon Ball Daima is Akira Toriyama's farewell, and very appropriately, it takes its time to remind us who Goku is and why we fell in love with him. To explain why, I want to dive into this from the perspective of the story, the characters, and the setting. Story-wise, a lot of people compare it to Dragon Ball GT for obvious reasons. They both de-age Goku in an attempt to bring us back to the roots of the series and the silliness and the goofy adventures, and kind of get us away from all the power scaling, multiversal, omniversal bullshit shenanigans. Like, there's only so many times the dude can get even stronger and more outer versal, 12th dimensional, whatever the fuck brain rot term these power scaling lunatics are coming up with now. There's only so many times you can do that, and also he has a new hair color before it just gets old. Maybe they just ran out of colors, honestly. Like, what else is there even, you know? You can't do green. That's like Namekian blackface. So what color is left? So yeah, both of them get back to basics, but like I mentioned earlier, GT has some problems. But Daima gives us a much more consistent story package, again, so far. And everything from the art style to the design of the characters and the story and the environments, they all communicate a consistent message, which is not what GT did. Okay, what about the characters? So sometimes in life, you don't know who you are until you leave your comfort zone. That's a bit of life advice for you. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit. See how you interact in new environments. Because sometimes that'll teach you who you really are, which is kind of like Dragon Ball Daima. It takes Goku out of the comfort zone of all of the characters that we've grown really used to and love, and puts him in a party with Supreme Kai, who honestly, I don't really give a shit about him, but also Glorio and Ponzi, who are two new characters and add a lot to the dynamic of the group. By interacting with these new people and taking him away from all the people who know him and don't have all that history, they can bring us back to those basics that I talked about much more effectively. And that's how Daima reminds us who Goku actually is. He's a loyal father, and husband. He does actually love his family and his friends, and he genuinely cares about rescuing Dende, but he also really loves the challenge of fighting. When Goku hears about the Demon Realm Dragon Balls, he basically starts salivating at the idea of fighting the Tamagami. But it's not because he doesn't care about Dende or he's selfish and doesn't care about his friends or anything. It's just a guy who loves his craft. This is his passion. And it's made exciting as well by the fact that he's back in this tiny body that he hasn't fought in for so long. Don't get me wrong, Goku is a dumbass when it comes to things like basic hygiene and basic social interactions, like leaving his homies stranded after they just got their ship stolen. But was he wrong? Like, let's do the calculation, right? Goku's ship didn't have any space in it. Goku had his own quest to go on. And remember, Dende's awaiting. You can't just sit around and waste time. And they helped arrange a pickup for the crew before they dipped. His friends are cared for. Job done, you know? It's not like they're in actual danger. They got Vegeta and Piccolo. Bro is just simple like that. His brain does not work the same way as ours. He literally has brain damage. Daima reminds us that more than anything else, Goku is a country bumpkin. He's stupid in a lot of ways, but he's still a fundamentally kind and caring person. He represents a really simplistic outlook on life, and it's beautiful because it's so simplistic. And that's why people latch on to him so much, even if they don't really care about most anime. He loves his family, he loves his friends, he will always step up when people need him, but ultimately he kind of just stays in his lane, and he has this limitless passion for the thing that he does. Like, that's kind of sick. I love Goku. You probably love Goku too. This is why you love him. You don't think he's selfish. You don't think he's an asshole. You don't really believe that. That's who Goku actually is. He's not as stupid as Dragon Ball Z Abridged made him look. And Super at times almost feels like it's inspired by Abridged with how stupid they made Goku. It's not inspired by Abridged, by the way. They fucking hate Team 4 Star over at Toei, but it still kind of feels that way. Because in Super, they for sure dropped some of Goku's IQ points, and that's really unfair because he was not working with that much to begin with. But I still refuse to believe that he didn't know how babies are made.
You're married and have children.
Yeah, duh, but what's that have to do with kissing?
Can you imagine Daima Goku not realizing how babies are made? No, you can't. Because they actually understand who Goku is. Alright, I'm rambling, but let's talk about the setting. Kind of the same idea as the story and the characters, but Daima does a good job of reestablishing Goku's character using this new setting. Take him out of his comfort zone, put him in this new environment. It's full of weird, completely different looking people and creatures and an environment that Goku is totally unfamiliar with, so you can see that sense of adventure in everything he does. He's not actually physically threatened that much during the story, so you can see that passion and that wondrous sense of adventure take the forefront. And even when he does get in a physical altercation, like, the dude is literally just smurfing. Like, when he fought Glorio, he's like, I'll fight with one hand behind my back. I think that'll make it more even. If that doesn't clearly spell out that Goku will try his best to make every fight as competitive as possible because he's a martial artist and he cares about the actual act of testing himself more than anything else, if that doesn't get it across, nothing else will. They did a really good job of showing that. But they were able to do that because they broke the cycle of power scaling a little bit and put him in this completely different environment with a completely different story, completely different characters, and reminded us why we all fell in love with this goofy little shit. I mean, I say we, but I know most of y'all did not watch Dragon Ball.
I'm here to help you.
Aren't we enemies?
Nobody watched Dragon Ball. Let's go!
I did watch Dragon Ball. When I was a kid, I would go to the library and borrow Dragon Ball every single summer and just read it over and over again. The problem with that is the library never has all the volumes, so I ended up reading the story in completely the wrong order. But I did read all of it multiple times. So I always knew that this was where Goku started. This is who he really is. So I think people like me are probably the actual target audience for this one. And hopefully everything that I shared earlier gave you all a bit of context as to why Daima feels like such a breath of fresh air for us old school Dragon Ball fans. You can tell that this was a labor of love from Akira Toriyama and a celebration of why he made Dragon Ball in the first place. I'm glad that this is the last piece of official media that he was involved in, because more than almost everything that came before it, this is Dragon Ball. Thank you, Akira. Thank you, Goku. And thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe, drop a comment if you liked the video or if you hated the video. Either one's fine, to be honest. But thank you for watching regardless. And I love you all. Happy New Year.